Well, let's take you back to our earlier top story. Public sector unions slamming government's latest wage offer of 7.5%, describing it as misleading. The unions accuse government of presenting the same offer, but in a different way. For more now, let's talk to Thulas Nxesi, who is the Acting Public Service and Administration Minister. Good evening and welcome, Minister. Thank you for your time. Please break down this offer for us.
Well, the offer, insofar as we're concerned, has two components. The first one is the 3% increase, which is pensionable. And then the second one is the 1,000 rand, which is coming from 20.5 billion rand, and which is in the form of the cash allowance. And insofar as we are concerned, that cash allowance benefits the lowest paid workers or service workers, public service workers, who some of them are benefiting to the tune of 13% because it's implemented on a sliding scale. That's what we are having. This 1,000 was a once-off temporal payment in the prior period, and there was no agreement to continue. It is now part of the new offer and had to be budgeted for. That's why we are different with the unions. And we've said to Labour, this is the total budget which the state can afford. That's it.
So I'll go back to the room for negotiation in just a moment, Minister, but I was in conversation with two of the unions earlier, decrying this as a disingenuous attempt, they say, by government to conflate the 1,000 rand stipend and a 3% baseline increase and then rounding it all up to 7.5%. What I heard earlier is that if the 1,000 rand becomes a pensionable benefit, then perhaps this might be an offer that they can take seriously. Is there room for that?
We never suggested that. For that matter, they are divided on that matter. Some of them, they want it. They are even arguing that it must be extended at the end of the financial year. And the Minister of Finance has said to them, here is the 20.5 billion. Skin it the way you want to do it. It is their proposal of their majority who said, no, we still want the cash allowance to continue. But what we have said is that they must come back to the negotiation. And we start talking about the negotiations for the coming year, because the reality is that we tend to negotiate after the fact.
Well, it seems, as you've just hinted at a moment ago, Minister, that this is as far as government will go, because as you again saying, there are no guarantees that money can be made available in the next financial year. What we're hearing is so far is that unions won't budge. How do you see a way out of this impasse?
Let me explain this one. Given the timing, we were forced with the dilemma that we had to advise the Minister of Finance as to what the current offer was, even in the absence of the agreement, so that this money could be budgeted for in terms of the medium-term budget policy statement, or risk losing that budgeted fund with no guarantee that further funds would be available. That's the issue. But what we have said to them, come back to the negotiation, because we've taken a responsible stance, which was to ring-fence that offer already made, but we're not closing the negotiation. Come back, let's negotiate. We look at the different options which are available to us. I can tell you, if we're talking about the medium-term or what we call the MTF,
BPS.
Plan is the multi-year planning. And if we have not been able to come up with any agreement, come the next year, we will be seated with the same problem because we will negotiate after the budgetary processes. It's better to negotiate before the budgetary processes are complete
Yeah.
Then we can inform the budgetary process.
Therefore, I'm keen to know what elasticity you have, given, as you say, your back's against the wall. You've exhausted the line of credit or the line of financing that is on the table now. And if the deal isn't taken, that's going to fall away and you'll have to renegotiate next year. What are some of these other permutations, Minister, that you think are viable on the table for you to still bargain with unions around?
The negotiation process can be able to determine that. The mediation process, which we have said is continuing, can be able to determine that. But what we know, you can be able to reach an agreement and talk about implementing it the following year, even if it's for this year, as part of a combined agreement with the negotiations of next year. But those negotiations must start now.
Well, whatever happens so far, and if nothing changes between now and Tuesday, a day of action is scheduled. It's going to go ahead. The union's telling us they feel pushed and being made to be sacrificial lambs to meet government's fiscal targets. How do you walk them off that ledge?
We must just accept that with what are called the tumultuous economic situation, where you have very, very serious constraint. Remember that prior to the COVID, the economy was on recession already, and we had the COVID. We lost about 2 million jobs because the economy was down on its knees. Now, we must just understand that there are serious constraints in the economy as a whole, and we have to take that into consideration. And what we are saying is we can't neglect that economic context, that fiscal constraint which is facing us as the government, a government which is faced with a number of demands. You have 10 million people unemployed, you have people who are earning 350, you have 17 million who are also on the ground. So we need to ensure that we have a balancing act when we are dealing with this particular matter.
Well, we're facing the impact of 800,000 public servants, either going slow, not going to work, and services grinding to a halt. What is your operational intervention plan, Minister?
The workers have the right to strike, but remember that when you're talking about 800,000, there are some sectors which are essential services. They are not supposed to go into any strike. They can picket during the break period. Before they can be able to go on strike, they are supposed to agree on what we call the minimum service level agreement. Otherwise, if they do that without such minimum service level agreement, it means they would have violated the law. So not everybody has the right just to simply go on strike straight away. So those rules and regulations must be respected.
Thulas Nxesi, the Acting Public Service and Administration Minister, thank you for talking to us on Full View tonight. Appreciate your time.